Alright guys, I'm going to try to do this way. And let's just start with the beginning. In chess, we can record our games in a scorebook or on a scorecard. You'll see my scorebook in the video you get to see later. In fact, if you play in a tournament, you will have to do that. All tournaments require that you keep records. If there's a dispute in a tournament, as a matter of fact, the tournament director, and I'm one, will ask to see the scorebooks. And the person with the most complete scorebook will have an advantage, especially if we're talking about a move and a disputed move. Then if someone has all of the moves up to the current moment and the other player doesn't, then that person's scorebook has to be trusted, the one who does. It serves several purposes. One, you can keep your opponent honest and avoid cheating and accidental illegal moves. If someone makes an illegal knight move, for example, you can say, no, your knight was on this square. It came from this square. So it went from here to here to here. Number two, you can go back and review your games later. Number three, you will slow down. You'll play more deliberately and you will see your move as you write it. And sometimes you'll even scratch it out and go, oh, that's not so good, and write something different. Number four, you can use it to manage disputes with a TD. That's what I mentioned before. And oh, by the way, you can use it to read other games and books to study. At the end of this lesson, there is a game by Bobby Fischer that you can study. So these are the letters that we will be using for each chess piece. Notice something is missing, the pawn. We'll get to that in a minute. So the main thing we want to know is that the major pieces, these sort of capital pieces, use capital letters. Alright, so the king is K, the queen is Q, the rook is R, the knight is a capital N. Now bear in mind, king is capital K, queen is capital Q, rook is capital R. The K is already taken, so the knight gets the N. Alright? And bishop is capital B. Alright? Now, there are other symbols. There are exclamation marks, which indicate a really good move. Double exclamation marks indicate an excellent move. A question mark indicates a questionable move. Double question marks indicates a bad move or a blunder. Plus mark is check. You're attacking the king. So that if the move puts a king in attack, you put a plus next to it. Hashtag is checkmate. Game over. You win. Alright. X is used to capture, or used when you write for capturing a piece. Okay? You may have noticed also that we don't use a letter for the pawn. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Think about it for a minute. If we talk about, say for example, adding and subtracting integers, positive and negative numbers. Well, we know that -6 is a -6, but we don't write +6 for +6, do we? Not unless we're adding, unless we're using the plus as an addition sign. Otherwise, we just write 6. Why? Because there's only two possibilities, positive and negative. If the negative's not there, we understand that it's positive. So if there are only 6 possible pieces, king, queen, rook, knight, bishop, and pawn, if it's not a king, it's not a queen, it's not a rook, it's not a bishop, and it's not a knight, then it must be a pawn. There's no need to have a letter. Alright. Double zeros, O-O is castle to the king side, the short side, and O-O-O is castle to the queen side, or the long side. Alright? As I said before, pieces are given capital letters, always capital letters. The squares use lowercase letters with the numbers. So you've already learned where like the square H1 is and where E4 is. You do this like you would be graphing. So the x-axis is the letters and the y-axis is the numbers. One of the things to note is when we want to write our moves down, we want to lay it out so that the white pieces have the alphabetical side. Okay, that keeps everything in order. So white should be looking at the alphabet normally, black should be looking at the alphabet backwards. So that's important. And it's not written down here anywhere, so remember that. White wants to look at the alphabet in order, Black wants to look at it backwards. The other thing that we want to say here is, even though the letters along the bottom are capital, we use lowercase for the squares themselves. So E4, square E4 is a little e and a 4. All right. The squares use lowercase letters with the numbers. Even though the letters you see along the x-axis of the board are capitals, the name of the squares always use lowercase. So 2 squares in front of the white king is E4. If a major piece moves to a square, we write the letter of the piece in caps and the name of the square it moved to, like capital N C3. That means the knight moved to C3. So a knight to square C3. If we used a pawn, we only need to write the name of the landing square, unless the move was a capture. In the case of a pawn capture, we have to write the name of the file. Those are the vertical lines. We'll talk about that in a minute. That the pawn came from, an X for captures. Remember the first page, and the name of the squares, the square the pawn took on. So if you have a pawn on the E file and he takes something either on, he can take on either the F file, right, or the D file. A, B, C, D, E, F. So a pawn on the E file can only take on the D file or the F file. So you go E, X, F, 7, for example. The only pawns that can take on F7 will come from either the E file, right, or the G file. So you say E to say that it's not the one on the G file, right? And F7 can only really be captured from E6 or G6. So we know that there's only 2 possibilities, the pawn from E6 or the pawn from G6. And if you say E, we all have to write the 6. All right. So an X for the captures and then the name of the square the pawn took on. Also, if a move can be made to the same square on the same turn by 2 pieces of the same type, that means 2 white knights can go to the same spot at the same turn, or 2 black rooks. We need to indicate which one we use by writing the file it came from. If both pieces were on the same file, then we indicate by writing the rank. So we use file first and then rank. So F5 is a pawn moving to the square F5. EX D4 is a pawn on the E file capturing something on the D4 square. Capital R, little a, little c1 is the rook from the A file moving to C1 when both rooks could have made that move. Capital N3, little e4 is the knight on the 3rd rank moving to E4 when both knights could have moved to E4 and both were on the same file. Now, what are files? Think of filing cabinets. These vertical columns are our files, all right? So if we look back here, N3, E4. So here is E4, okay? So the knight could have been on C3, C5, right? Okay, that's a possibility. And also G3 and G5 are possibilities, but you only use the 3 if the 2 knights are on the same file. If it could have come from, say there was a knight on C3 and there was a knight on G3, and it was the one we used from C, we would say NC E4, okay? So we would only use N3 E4 if both knights are located on the same file. So say one was here and one was here. All right, so here's a game for you to play through. The first move is knight to F3, then black would play knight to F6. So you have white move, then black move, white move, then black move, white move, then black move. It's important to note that when you write down your moves, you also write down your opponent's moves. You write down both, because how else would you know where everything is when you're going back? You want to know where your pieces are and your opponent's pieces. Okay? So knight to F3, black plays knight to F6. C4, black plays G6. Knight to C3, black plays bishop to G7. D4, black plays castle short. Bishop to F4, black plays D5, and so on. Good luck. Oh, you will also have a chance to watch a video where I played one of our chess club members, a very kind man who was willing to do this in the interest of science, and I wrote the moves down, so you'll get that chance as well. All right.